basketball has really consumed my life for a year, so I feel like it'll be good for me to kind of reflect back on everything that's happened. Like, I feel like I didn't even have time to really reflect on my college career because it ended so fast. And then I came here and was trying to give everything I could to this team and kind of move on and put all that behind me and help this team, get back to the playoffs. So
it is bad news for the WNBA that she's not continuing to play.
Caitlin Clark just dropped a bombshell. She's packing her bags and heading to Europe, and the whole world is freaking out. Meanwhile, the WNBA is sweating like they didn't see this coming from a mile away. But honestly, are we really surprised? Caitlin came into the league, lit it up, smashed attendance records, and brought in fans like never before. And how did the WNBA repay her? With weak officiating, constant criticism, dirty plays, and barely any protection on the court. It's almost like they were daring her to leave. So, now Caitlin has decided she's had enough. She made the announcement loud and clear, stating she needs a fresh start, away from the drama and toxicity. It feels like the WNBA practically pushed her out the door, and now they're scrambling to figure out what comes next without their biggest star. Let me break down exactly what she said and why she's leaving.
Gabby Williams is saying about the WNBA, I hope is another wake-up call for them because this season has been nothing short of a mess.
Caitlin Clark just dropped a bombshell on the basketball world, and no one saw it coming. The woman who is essentially the face of the WNBA in 2024 has decided to leave, and not for another team, but for Europe. The internet exploded when the news broke, and honestly, who can blame it? Caitlin, who had the entire basketball world at her feet after just one incredible season, is calling it quits on the WNBA, and the reason? The WNBA itself. Caitlin delivered game after game, shattering records and boosting the league's popularity. But at what cost? The league was raking in the profits from her success, yet when it came to taking care of their biggest star, they were silent. The WNBA's lack of support, protection, and appreciation pushed her to make this bold move. Now, she's packing up and leaving, while the WNBA is left to deal with the fallout of losing their brightest star.
It's frustration with the league's officiating, recently telling reporters, quote, I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me, and opponents get away with things that other people don't get away with. That's what Caitlin Clark...
Let's just get this out there. What Caitlin Clark endured on the court wasn't just tough basketball. It was practically criminal, probably illegal in at least 12 states. Teams weren't just trying to slow her down. They were out to flatten her like she was some kind of basketball pancake. Elbows? Check. Headshots? Double check. Even the occasional eye poke, because why not make it weird, right? And the refs? They were practically doing yoga with all the bending and twisting to look the other way. Fans, commentators, and even random people on Twitter were asking, are we just not calling fouls anymore? But nope. Caitlin just had to wipe off the bruises, shake it off, and keep pushing through. It was almost like she was playing in a league that didn't care about its own star players.
What I am upset about is like, hey man, your meal ticket is under constant attack. There's been dirty plays all...
Then there was that game, June 15th, 2024, against the Las Vegas Aces. Caitlin was cruising on a fast break, ready to drop an easy layup, when BAM. She took a smack to the face. The refs? They called it a common foul, like it was just some casual bump, as if she hadn't just been decked. BY mid-season, the physical beatdowns reached new heights. Teams realized that if they couldn't stop Caitlin with defense, they'd just hit her harder. On September 22nd, 2024, in a game against the Connecticut Sun, she took an eye poke so bad she was squinting for the rest of the game. And was it called? Nope. The commentators were straight up flabbergasted. You could hear it in their voices. How is that not a foul? But, of course, nothing happened. It became a pattern. Caitlin would get knocked around, the refs would shrug, and the WNBA would act like everything was fine. Spoiler, it wasn't.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it.
And honestly, the league's response, or lack thereof, became a running theme. It wasn't just the refs missing calls. It was the whole system failing Caitlin. But then, things took an even uglier turn. Racial abuse. As a white player in a predominantly black league, Caitlin found herself in an uncomfortable spotlight. Players weren't exactly subtle with their racial comments. Angel Reese, Alyssa Thomas, Cheryl Swoops, and others publicly accused her of being racist. And the WNBA's reaction? Absolute crickets. No statement, no investigation, nothing. Caitlin was out there being heckled, and the league? They just hit the mute button, acting like it wasn't happening.
Those guys, they're the racists when really y'all are the racists. The people coming up with excuses to hate Caitlin Clark and the new fan base that she...
It didn't stop there either. Game after game, Caitlin was dealing with verbal jabs and outright harassment from fans, especially during away games. In a July matchup against the Chicago Sky, she opened up in a post-game interview about how the comments were really getting to her. It's tough, you know? You expect physical play. It's basketball. But the slurs and comments stick with you. It's not what the game should be about, she said. People began to take notice, and conversations started to bubble up. But guess what the WNBA's grand response was? More silence. Are you sensing a theme here? It's becoming clear that while Caitlin was battling on the court, she was fighting an uphill battle with the league itself, which seemed more interested in looking the other way than supporting their star player.
Not built for the physicality of this league.
Yeah,
and she's not quick enough to get away from the physicality.
Now let's talk about that rookie season, though. Caitlin was a walking highlight reel. Every time she touched the ball, it felt like the world collectively held its breath. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was rewriting history on the daily. ESPN couldn't get enough of her, probably having a whole department dedicated to tracking her every move. Whether you were a diehard WNBA fan or couldn't tell a basketball from a beach ball, you knew Caitlin's name. She was trending on every platform, and her jersey was sold out everywhere. The hype was real, but you know what else was real? The stress. The WNBA has been a mess this year, and it has been so unprofessional. They need to step it up, and they need to do it quickly. By the time the season was winding down, Caitlin was visibly worn out, both mentally and physically. She had been elbowed, shoved, poked, screamed at, and racially harassed. And what did the WNBA do about it? Nothing. They were too busy counting their jersey sales and bragging about attendance records. Caitlin was the reason people were watching, yet the league wasn't watching out for her. It was as if they saw her as a walking cash machine instead of a person. The lack of support and acknowledgement from the league left her feeling isolated, and it's no wonder she's now choosing to take her talents elsewhere.
and this woman swats at the basketball and somehow decides to turn her hand down and her fingernails and jab him right into the eye of Caitlin Clark. No foul call. No refs stopping the game to go look. Is this a flagrant? None of that. Just everybody moved on.
Let's dive into those endorsement deals, or rather, the glaring lack of them. Caitlin, who had the entire basketball world at her fingertips, should have been drowning in sponsorship offers. We're talking about brands lining up to work with her. Instead, it felt more like a trickle of deals here and there. It's shocking, especially since she was breaking viewership records left and right. What's even more frustrating is the WNBA's failure to promote her as the superstar she truly is. Sure, they shared a few social media clips and highlighted her incredible plays, but that was the extent of their efforts. There was no grand marketing campaign, no nationwide ad blitz to showcase her talent. Caitlin was the one single-handedly boosting the league's ratings, while the WNBA seemed to coast along, acknowledging her talent, but not fully capitalizing on it. It's almost baffling. With Caitlin Clark in the spotlight, the league missed a massive opportunity to elevate not just her brand, but the WNBA as a whole. They had a generational talent on their hands and chose to sit back instead of fully embracing and promoting her. It's a classic case of what could have been for both Caitlin and the league.
WNBA has seen record-breaking numbers this season in viewership, ticket sales, merch sales, and just overall growth of the league.
And now Caitlin's off to Europe. Yeah, Europe, where they actually appreciate basketball talent and know how to pay for it too. The WNBA is in serious trouble now because, without Caitlin, who's going to keep fans interested? Let's face it, the 2024 season was Caitlin's show. She was the one drawing in casual viewers and making those jaw-dropping, impossible deep shots that had everyone buzzing. Now that she's gone, what's left for the league? The ratings are almost guaranteed to take a nosedive, and there's no one currently in the WNBA with the same star power to fill that gap. Sure, Breanna Stewart and Aya Wilson are phenomenal players, but let's be real, they just haven't captured the same kind of attention that Caitlin did. She was a phenomenon, and the league's inability to recognize and support her talent is about to come back and bite them hard. With Caitlin's departure, the WNBA faces an uphill battle to keep fans engaged and maintain viewership.
Let's just say the ratings aren't the same with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever now eliminated. Game 1 of the Aces Liberty matchup on Sunday drew an average of 929,000 viewers. Was down nearly 50% from last Sunday's Fever Sun contest.
But this move isn't just about the paycheck. Though let's be real, that part is probably nice. It's about freedom. It's about Caitlin taking control of her career and her life, refusing to let the WNBA's baggage drag her down. This decision feels like a wake-up call for the league. If Caitlin Clark isn't happy, what does that say about the state of the WNBA? Seriously, if they can't hold on to their biggest star, what hope is there for anyone else? Here's a fun little fact for you. In the first half of the 2024 season, the WNBA's viewership jumped nearly 30% compared to the previous year, and that spike was directly tied to Caitlin's rise. Every single one of ESPN's top-rated WNBA games feature her. So, now that she's hopping across the Atlantic, those numbers are bound to resemble a steep roller coaster drop. Take the Indiana Fever, for example. With Caitlin leading the charge, they topped the league in attendance, both at home and on the road, averaging around 17,000 fans. And it's not just about TV ratings. Caitlin's presence was packing arenas. Her away games turned into mini superstar tours. Just look at that July 22nd matchup against the Chicago Sky, where nearly 10,000 fans showed up just to watch her play, far surpassing the average attendance. Now that she's gone, those seats are going to look pretty empty. Let's be real, without her, a lot of those fans aren't sticking around. If the WNBA can't deliver the entertainment fans want, they're not going to make money, and the league is going to suffer. One thing's for sure, Caitlin's departure is going to shake things up in a big way. The 2024 season revolved around her. Fans were flocking to games and tuning in just to see what magic she'd pull off next. Now, the league is left wondering what to do without her. Ratings? Attendance? Yeah, that's all going to take a hit. Europe might be gaining a basketball legend, but the WNBA is losing so much more than just a player. They're losing the entire heartbeat of their season. So when Caitlin decided to head off to Europe, who could really blame her? Who wants to stick around in a toxic environment where you're basically treated like a piñata? For Caitlin, Europe isn't just about better basketball opportunities. It's about escaping the mess the WNBA allowed to fester. Despite breaking every record under the sun, Caitlin realized the league wasn't really on her side, and that might just be the biggest disappointment of all.